You think you know Harrison Ford? Well, here's some things you may not have known about President Han Indiana Ryan Deckard.
Get off my plane.
Harrison Ford is not only one of the world's best-known actors, he's also an avid environmental activist. In 2013, Ford was filming a documentary in Indonesia and was almost deported after interviewing the Indonesian forestry minister, as the presidential advisor perceived the interview to fall under, quote, harassing state institutions. He alleged that Ford and his crew gave no forewarning on the nature of the questions concerning illegal logging. Because of this, Ford was provided audience with the Indonesian president, in which he used as a platform to voice his concerns about Indonesia's policy regarding climate change and environmental destruction. Similarly, for his extensive environmental work, Ford has had the honor of having a new species named after him not once, but twice. In 1993, a new species of spider was named Calponia harrisonfordi. In 2002, a new species of ant was named Phodole harrisonfordi, in honor of the work he did as vice chairman of Conservation International. Ford also acts as a general trustee on the governing board of the Archaeological Institute of America. His role consists mostly of increasing the public's awareness of the science of archaeology, but he also assists them in preventing looting and the illegal trade of antiquities. Sounds a lot like Indiana Jones.
That belongs in a museum. So do you.
Harrison Ford is an avid pilot of both planes and helicopters, but couldn't afford the $15 an hour fee for lessons to finish out his training. However, he returned to flying in the 90s after his fiscal success in film. Ford purchased a used Gulfstream II and asked his pilot to begin giving him lessons, eventually soloing in a Cessna 206. Since getting his pilot's license, Ford has assisted in emergency flights several times, usually to locate and recover lost or injured hikers in the area surrounding his ranch in Jackson, Wyoming, which spans 800 acres, half of which he has donated as a nature preserve. However, his career in flight is not exempt from brushes with death. In 1999, Ford crashed a helicopter while on a routine training flight. Thankfully, neither Ford nor his instructor pilot were injured, though the helicopter was severely damaged. Again, in 2015, while flying a plane in Venice, California, Ford had to make an emergency landing on a golf course, citing engine failure. He successfully landed the plane, though had to be rushed to Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center for a broken pelvis and ankle. When Ford began acting, it was only small background roles he got in order to continue to stay in California after applying for a job in radio doing voiceovers and failing to get it. When he transitioned into speaking roles, he was often credited as Harrison J. Ford. The J doesn't stand for anything, as Ford doesn't actually have a middle name. The initial was added only to differentiate Ford from a silent film actor, also named Harrison Ford, who was in over 80 films between 1915 and 1932. When acting in these smaller roles wasn't paying the bills for his family, Ford became an entirely self-taught professional carpenter, something he does to this day as a hobby in his spare time. As a professional carpenter, Ford ended up becoming a stagehand for The Doors. It wasn't until casting director Fred Ross vouched for Ford and got him an audition for the role of Bob Falfa in George Lucas's American Graffiti that Ford's career as an actor truly began. Ford secured the role and went back to his carpentry life. Francis Ford Coppola ended up hiring Ford for a few carpentry jobs and gave him a few small roles in The Conversation and Apocalypse Now. When George Lucas began holding auditions for Star Wars, he hired Harrison Ford to read lines to the actors and actresses auditioning. Through his acting and charm, Ford won Lucas over and secured the role of Han Solo. After the success of Star Wars, Harrison Ford was established as a household name. Despite Blade Runner being regarded as one of the best science fiction films of all time, Harrison Ford clashed with director Ridley Scott over a handful of things. The biggest sticking point between the two was the subject of voiceovers. Prior to filming, the two had agreed that the version of the film that they were doing was the one without voiceovers. However, despite them being removed from the script, the studio wanted them included in the film's final cut. And here's a bonus one. Despite his extreme reluctance to do voiceovers for Blade Runner, Ford actually did the voiceover for the original trailer for The Empire Strikes Back.
Luke Skywalker and Han Solo rescued the princess, destroyed the Death Star, but their story didn't end there.
That's it for this episode of You Think You Know Movies. Make sure to subscribe, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and get the latest movie and TV news on ScreenCrush.com.